You don't recover from a childhood like that. You just don't. We all watched him on screen, that perfect, clever little face, that scream that was equal parts terror and triumph. We bought the posters, we quoted the lines, we thought we knew him. We thought we knew what it cost. We knew nothing. My name is Julian Croft, and for 11 months I was Macaulay Culkin's personal sound designer. Not for a movie, for his life. My job was to help him sleep. It was the most prestigious, most secretive, and most horrifying gig of my career. And I'm telling you this now because what they're doing to him, what they did to all of them, isn't over. It's just evolved. And if you listen closely, to the silence between the words of any former child star, you can still hear the echo of the thing they locked away. You can still hear the trapdoor swinging shut. Back in 2012, my career was undefined. I was a sound engineer and designer, based out of a small but well-respected post-production house in Burbank called Aural Fixations. We did a lot of indie films, some documentary work, the occasional car commercial. I was good at my job, particularly at Foley and atmospheric design, creating the subtle soundscape that makes a scene feel real. The crunch of gravel underfoot, the distant hum of a refrigerator, the specific acoustics of an empty room. The stuff you only notice when it's gone. I got a call from my boss, Alan, on a Tuesday. He was breathless, which was unlike him. Jules, drop everything. You're meeting a client. A private client. The NDA for this is thicker than a phone book, and the retainer has more zeros than you've ever seen. Do not be late. Do not ask stupid questions. The meeting was at a nondescript office building in Westwood, not a studio, lot. The room was too clean, too quiet. The man across the table was introduced as Mr. Sterling. He had a perfect tan and a handshake that felt like polished bone. He represented, he said, a high-profile individual experiencing parasomniac events, a fancy term for night terrors. Our client requires a customized auditory environment for sleep, Sterling said, his voice devoid of inflection. A soundscape, not music, not white noise, something architectural, something that can build walls. Your work on The Quiet Room was noted for its structural integrity. The Quiet Room was a micro-budget horror film I'd done, famous for its oppressive use of silence. I was flattered and unnerved. Who is the client? I asked. Sterling didn't blink. You'll be informed upon acceptance. The primary requirement is discretion, total, absolute discretion. You will see and hear things that are not for public consumption. You will become a ghost. The money they offered was life-changing. A year of that would set me up for a decade. I said yes. 2 days later, a black town car took me to a secluded, modernist house in the Hollywood Hills. And that's when I met him. Macaulay Culkin answered the door himself. He was thinner than I expected, older than the kid from the movies. But those eyes were unmistakable. There was a weary kindness to him, a guarded warmth. He shook my hand. Julian, right? Thanks for coming. Sorry about all the spy stuff. Sterling's a bit much. No problem, Mr. Culkin. It's an honor. Macaulay, please. And the honor is hopefully me getting a full night's sleep. He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. It was a practiced, polite gesture. The house was beautiful, but felt staged, like a museum exhibit of a home. Everything was minimal, expensive, and slightly impersonal. He led me to a guest house that had been converted into a studio. The equipment was top of the line, better than anything we had at Aural Fixations. Neumann monitors, a pristine SSL, console, A library of field recorders and sound libraries that made my mouth water. "This is your workshop," he said. "The master bedroom is through there." He pointed to a heavy reinforced door next to the equipment rack. "It's soundproofed. Mic feeds run from in there to here. Your job is to listen to the events and design a countersound. A sonic blanket to smother it." "What kind of events?" I asked. His face went placid, a mask slipping into place. "You'll hear. Sterling has the details. I'm gonna go make some coffee." He left quickly, almost fleeing. Sterling appeared, as if summoned. He handed me a file. "The subject suffers from chronic, recurring night terrors. They are auditory and somatic in nature. He feels them as much as hears them. They are consistently themed. Your mandate is to design a bespoke soundscape that will preemptively engage his auditory cortex, preventing the initiation of the terror cycle." I opened the file. The first page was a list of triggers. The phrases made a cold knot form in my stomach. Recurring auditory motif. The sound of tape being pulled rapidly from a roll. Recurring auditory motif. A low, guttural whisper, numbers sometimes discernible. Recurring somatic motif. The sensation of cold, polished metal on the skin. Recurring somatic motif. The sensation of confinement, of walls closing in. At the bottom of the page, a single line was typed in bold, primary thematic. The fear of being forgotten, of screaming with no one to hear. The first few nights were observational. I sat in the studio, headphones on, listening to the ambient sound of Macaulay's bedroom. The mic was so sensitive I could hear his breathing, the rustle of sheets. Felt like a profound violation, but Sterling insisted it was necessary. "We must understand the enemy," he'd say. The enemy was sleep. The first incident happened on the third night. His breathing, which had settled into the slow rhythm of deep sleep, hitched. Then it stopped. A full 10 seconds of silence. And then, a sound that made the hair on my arms stand straight up. It was a whisper, dry and rasping like paper sliding over stone. It wasn't coming from him. The waveform on my screen spiked, but his mouth wasn't moving. The whisper was, "In the room. 6, 7. A sharp, frantic inhale from Macaulay. His body tensed on the bed, visible through the faint light of the audio monitor. Don't forget the number." Then, the sound of tape. Not the gentle peel of tape from skin. This was the violent, screeching rip of industrial-strength duct tape being yanked from the roll, fast and angry. Zip, sip. Over and over, a metallic screech that felt like it was flaying my nerves. Macaulay began to whimper. A low, terrified sound from deep in his throat. He was still asleep, trapped in the REM cycle. His hands came up, pushing against an eyed, invisible force fighting against an unseen bindings. 8, 9. I sat frozen, my hand over my mouth. This wasn't a nightmare, this was an invasion. The sounds had a palpable physical presence in the room. I felt a chill, a drop in temperature that the studio's climate control couldn't explain. It lasted for maybe 90 seconds. Then, as suddenly as it started, it stopped. The waveforms flatlined. Macaulay's body went limp and his breathing returned to normal. He'd slept through it. He always slept through it. The terror was for him and for anyone listening. The next morning I was a wreck. He was in the kitchen making eggs. He looked tired but normal. "Rough night?" he asked, seeing my face. "You could say that. The tape sound. Is that The spatula in his hand paused for a fraction of a second. Yeah, that's a common one. He said it like he was discussing an annoying weather pattern. From the movie, you know. The tape on the face. People think it's funny. A meme. It's not like that in the dream. In the dream, it's not coming off. I began my work. I started building my sonic blanket. I used sounds of distant, gentle rain on different surfaces. Leaves, roof shingles, earth. I layered in the deep, resonant hum of a cello note, held for minutes, a sound you feel in your chest. I created a soft, enveloping atmosphere of a safe, deep forest at night. I called the composition The Quiet Garden. That night I cued it up as he fell asleep. The gentle sounds filled his bedroom speakers. For a few hours it worked. His sleep was peaceful. I felt a surge of pride. I was curing him. Then, just past 3 a.m., it broke through. The rain in my soundscape distorted. The patter on leaves became sharper, more metallic. Tick, 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 like water hitting polished metal. The deep cello hum warped, dropping in pitch until it became the guttural, numbers-counting whisper, speaking through my music. Found you, the voice hissed, using my cello note as a vocal cord. The tape sound screeched, but this time it wasn't alone. Another sound layered underneath it, a sound I knew from my own work. The crisp, specific click-clack of a vintage door latch sliding home, the latch from Home Alone, the sound of a trap being set. My soundscape wasn't smothering the nightmare. It was feeding it, giving it new material to work with. I ripped my headphones off, my heart hammering. I stared through the glass at the sleeping man. He was trembling, his knees drawn to his chest. He looked like a little boy. He looked exactly like the boy on the posters, alone and fighting shadows no one else could see. I went to Sterling the Bow. Next day. The sounds, they're adaptive, they're conscious, they're using what I create. Sterling didn't look surprised. He steepled his fingers. The phenomenon is parasympathetic and self-reinforcing. It's a feedback loop of trauma. You need to try harder. Different frequencies, different modalities. It's not a phenomenon, I snapped, my professional cool evaporating. It's him. It's his PTSD. He needs a therapist, not a sound engineer. Sterling's expression turned to ice. Mr. Croft, you are not paid for psychiatric diagnosis. You are paid to design a soundscape. The subject's past treatment is not your concern. His mind has created a monster. Your job is to build a cage for it. Do you understand? I was terrified of losing the job, the money. I backed down. Yes, I understand. I went deeper. I started using sub-harmonic frequencies, sounds below the range of human hearing, meant to induce calm on a primal, physiological level. I used binaural beats to try and entrain his brainwaves. I became obsessed. The nightmare became my nightmare. I'd jump at the sound of tape in the packaging room. I'd wake up in my own bed, sweating, counting numbers in the dark. I started noticing other things. The way Sterling would sometimes watch Macaulay with the clinical detachment of an entomologist studying a specimen. The way Macaulay would sometimes slip into a vacant, placid state mid-conversation. A doll-like calm that was more disturbing than his anxiety. One afternoon I was early. The front door was unlocked. I heard voices in the living room. Sterling and another man, whose voice I didn't recognize. The imprint is remarkably stable, the stranger was saying. The Culkin subject is one of our most resilient vessels. The recurrence of the specific motifs proves the fidelity of the initial encoding. The audio engineer is struggling, Sterling replied. The manifestation is learning, adapting. All the better. The more it fights, the more we learn about containment. This isn't about curing him, Sterling. It's about harvesting the data. The fear is the product. I must have made a noise. The conversation stopped dead. A moment later, Sterling appeared, his smile sharp and dangerous. Julian, you're early. I never mentioned what I heard. He never mentioned that I'd heard it. The unspoken knowledge hung between us, a third entity in the house. The nightmare grew stronger. It started incorporating new elements. The sound of a cash register ringing up a huge sale. The roar of a crowd that slowly morphed into the sound of a hungry beast. The laughter of children that curdled into mean-spirited mocking shrieks. It was a symphony of exploitation, conducted by an invisible hand, and the numbers. The numbers were always there, counting. 10, 11, 12. Never going past 20. Never starting at 1. Always in the middle. Always counting down to something. The climax came on the anniversary of the film's release. I knew the date. I think we all felt it. The air in the house was thick with a static charge. Macaulay was on edge, pacing the living room like a caged animal. It's always worse this time of year, he said, not looking at me. It's like it knows the calendar. It knows it's its birthday. That night, I was at my console, my hands sweating. I had a new idea, a last-ditch effort. A sound of pure, resonant emptiness, the recorded tone of a Tibetan singing bowl in a massive, empty cavern, the sound of void and peace. He fell asleep. The silence was heavy, expectant. The waveforms on my screen were flat lines. An hour passed. 2. Then the temperature in my studio dropped. My breath misted in the air. The whisper came, not from the speakers, but from right behind my chair. Engineer. I spun around. Nothing. The studio was empty. On the monitors, Macaulay was twitching. The tape sound started, but it was different. It was slower, deliberate. Reap, reap, like someone was savoring it. The whispering voice was in the room with me, moving around the studio, speaking from every speaker at once. You think you can build a wall. You think you can silence. I am the silence between the words. The latch on the bedroom door click-clocked shut. I hadn't installed a latch. It was the sound made manifest. I watched, paralyzed as Macaulay's body began to rise off the bed. Not a lot. Just a few inches. Levitating. His back was arched, his arms pinned to his sides, his face contorted in silent agony. He was trapped, in an invisible box. The whispering voice was screaming now, a chorus of anguish and rage, counting numbers that overlapped and bled into each other. 14, 15, 12, 11. I couldn't take it. I slammed my hands on the console, fumbling, for the master output to kill the sound to do anything. My finger hit a different switch, the one that fed my microphone back to the bedroom speakers. I screamed into my mic, "Leave him alone." The sound in the room stopped. The levitating body dropped onto the bed with a soft thud. The silence was absolute, more terrifying than the noise. Then, a new sound. A slow, soft scraping, coming from the reinforced door that connected my studio to his bedroom. Something was on the other side, dragging its nails down the metal. A whisper so clear it was as if the lips were pressed against my ear. It was Macaulay's voice, but corrupted, layered with the other one. You wanted to hear me, Julian. Now you can see me. Let me in. I'm so cold. The heavy deadbolt on the door began to turn. Slowly. On its own. I scrambled back, falling out of my chair. I grabbed my keys, my phone, nothing else. I didn't look back. I fled the studio, out into the main house and toward the front door. I skidded to a halt in the living room. Macaulay was there. He was standing by the window looking out at the city lights. He turned to me. His face was calm. Too calm. His eyes were empty. "Julian," he said. His voice was flat. "It's okay. You can go." "Macaulay." What is that? In there?" He smiled then. It wasn't his smile. It was the smile of the thing that whispered. It was a cold, dead thing. "It's the product, Julian," he said, Sterling's words coming from his mouth. "They captured it on film. All that childhood fear, all that panic, all that loneliness. They baked it right into the celluloid. They didn't just make a movie, they made a battery. And they put it in a box, and I'm the box." The deadbolt on the studio door clanged open behind me. I didn't wait. I ran. I ran out the door, down the driveway, and didn't stop running until I was miles away. Sterling called me 12 times the next day. I finally answered. He was calm. "Mr. Croft. A regrettable incident. The subject experienced a severe parasomniac episode. You were understandably frightened. Your contract is terminated. A severance package has been deposited into your account. It includes a significantly enhanced confidentiality agreement. We trust you will adhere to its terms." The amount in my account was obscene. It was more than the original year's salary. It was hush money. It was a brick in the wall of silence. I tried to go back to my old life, but I was broken. The sounds followed me. I'd hear the tape rip in the squeal of bus brakes. I'd hear the numbers in the rustle of leaves. I'd see that vacant, doll-like expression on the faces of people in crowds. I started researching, obsessively, other child stars, the ones who ended up in institutions, the ones who OD'd, the ones who just disappeared. I read their interviews, listened to their stories, and I started to hear it, the same motifs, the same echoes. The sensation of being a commodity, the fear of being used up and discarded, the recurring dreams of traps and cages and being frozen, unable to move, the specific haunting loneliness of being seen by millions but known by no one. It wasn't just him, it was all of them. The industry isn't just breaking these kids, it's performing a kind of alchemy. It's distilling their childhood trauma, their fear, their innocence into a tangible force. A parasite that feeds on fame and fear. And they're packaging it. They're selling it. We're consuming it every time we watch those movies, every time we laugh at the memes, every time we think we own a piece of them. Macaulay Culkin survived. He seems happy now. He's broken free. Or has he? Maybe he just made peace with the thing in the box. Maybe he learned to live with the tenant in his own head. But I can't. I hear it every night. In the silence. That's where it lives. In the space between heartbeats. In the moment before sleep. I'm telling you this because it's not over. The Next Generation is on Disney Channel and YouTube right now, smiling for the camera. And the machine is already whirring around them, tape rolling, ready to capture more than just their image, ready to capture their ghosts. So the next time you watch an old movie, a comedy with a famous child star, listen. Really listen. Past the laugh track. Past the catchy theme song. Listen for the whisper. Listen for the sound of the trapdoor. Listen for the silence in the scream.